Well, it was a wild one here at Neyland Stadium as we wrap things up early on a Sunday morning. Tennessee falls to Ole Miss by a final score of 31-26. Kind of a roller coaster game of emotions. Ole Miss comes out hot. They dominated the first half. Tennessee gave up a touchdown, also just gave up only one touchdown in the second half and had a chance to win it twice late in that fourth quarter. Ben, I'll start with you. Kind of overall thoughts leaving Neyland Stadium here tonight, knowing that Tennessee, as I said on the way up here, looked like Maryville's JV team out there because they had so many injuries, but still walked away with a 6-point loss, 5-point loss.
It's 1:28 a.m. and I am very scatterbrained because so much took place tonight, particularly over the last hour to 2 hours. I don't even know how long ago it was when we dealt with all the shenanigans on the field. So I'll just keep it X's and O's, and we can get into that maybe as we wrap up. But X's and O's wise, offensively, I thought Tennessee was scatterbrained for much of that first half, and just could not find a rhythm. They weren't running the ball particularly well. Austin and I kept talking throughout the first half. Why isn't Hendon Hooker keeping the ball more often, or why isn't Tennessee calling more designed runs for Hendon Hooker? Why is Hendon Hooker not running the football? Was the question Austin and I were asking each other, and very confusing, and I thought that led to some success for Ole Miss against Tennessee's rushing game. And when you're missing as many offensive linemen as you are, if you're Tennessee, I mean, you're missing your left guard with Kingston Harris, your center with Cooper Mays, your right tackle with Cade Mays, Kayron Calvert, as Austin laughs at Lane Kiffin getting pelted by a golf ball.
No, I'm laughing at the fact that.
Oh, at the offensive line.
Well, yeah, it is like a patchwork. I mean, patchwork's
like a JV
probably
high school team.
Patchwork's probably too kind of a phrase.
There was critical fourth down there early in that fourth quarter that Tennessee had to get, and Marcus Pierce carried the ball. And that's no slight to him, but it was Jabari Small had to go out for a minute. Laneith Whitehead lost his helmet. Tennessee didn't have Jalen Wright. I mean, it was patchwork to your point.
Yeah, and I was getting a little long-winded there. I apologize, but the offensive line, and mainly because of injuries, just really deterred the offensive success in the first half. Just could not get anything going on the ground. Couldn't protect Hendon Hooker. And they did start to find a rhythm there in the second half. The bad Ole Miss defense showed up in the second half. I thought the defense played its heart out and gave the offense a chance, but just not enough from the offensive line up front, in my opinion.
I said here, so much I saw tonight, and it's still the wildest thing that Joe Milton ran. Not just ran. He ran out of bounds.
You got to give yourself a chance in that situation.
I mean, you're a truck, and you decided to pull over.
But just have a football IQ, knowing that's the last.
Well, sure,
play
you throw
of the
it.
game.
Yeah, sure, you throw
I
it.
didn't even think about that part. I've been so focused on the fact that he didn't throw it to the end zone that I forgot that he looks like Cam Newton and ran out of bounds on the final play of the game.
He just ran out of bounds.
Ugh, golly.
I mean, like, I was down there. Like, you were down there. Cedric Tillman, Jerome Carver, man, they were pissed. I mean, like, how do you not? I mean, like, that's just, as I said in the 2-minute drill, the dumbest play I've ever witnessed in person. There have been other dumber plays in sports, but that particular play is the dumbest play I've ever witnessed live with my own eyes. I mean, like that. After all that had transpired, I really thought, they took that kind of like that 11-yard throw and brought it down to 11 seconds, and that gave them 2 plays. I thought they should have just thrown 4 straight plays to the end zone and see what happens. Maybe you draw a penalty, maybe you. That's the other reason you throw it on at the end of the game is if you draw a penalty. But I mean, the third down throw, he actually threw a really good ball. I mean, you can't really. It was a tight window. You had to throw it kind of where he threw it, put some mustard on. He did all that. We go back. And I said this on the 2-minute drill with Hubs. The fact that they handed off to Marcus Pierce, and we were in the fourth quarter of a one-possession game, and the guys blocking for him were Ollie Lane, Jackson Lampley, and Dane Davis. And that's no slight to those guys, okay? But those are guys you did not expect to be out there in the fourth quarter of a game at this stage in their career. Yep. Now, Ollie, I mean, has at least played the last few weeks. It's a little different. But Lampley hadn't really played, and all of a sudden he's thrust into the game. You know, Dane Davis was thrust in when Cade went out. And, I mean, you exit this game. You don't know what the status of Cade is. I mean, let's face it, they're not exactly forthcoming with injuries.
Don't know the status of Hendon Hooker.
You don't know the status of Hendon Hooker. You're going to Alabama next week. I mean, like, you know, again, I don't want to start this debate on the board, but at the end of the day, Joe Milton running out of bounds, it would be a cold day before I throw him back out there. That is, again, I mean, like you saw when Heupel was asked about a post game, it was just like, even he wanted to say, that's the dumbest play I've ever seen in person.
Had to bite his tongue. Is it worse than the Jarrett Garantano QB sneak in Tuscaloosa?
Yes, because at least he was like trying to make a play to score.
Yeah, exactly. He was trying to win that football game. Milton didn't give himself a chance. He just ran. I mean,
he jogged out of bounds. I mean, we just watched the replay go across the screen right here. He jogged out of bounds.
Just not
like it was in the middle of the third quarter.
Bottom line, the story of this one, and the stats at the end of the football game, they look a little bit better, but Ole Miss dominated that first half.
Hey, man, I'm going to keep beating the drum. I said this in the 2-minute drill. Tim Banks, man, is doing a heck of a job.
Oh,
I mean, I think Tennessee's got themselves a good defensive coordinator.
7 points in the second half.
7 points in the second half. 31 overall. I mean, yeah, they gave up some third down conversions on some quarterback runs, but did Ole Miss? Ole Miss hit the one play on them for about a 40-yard touchdown in the first half. But I mean, did they really? They never really big played them. And
I thought one player beat Tennessee. I thought it was Matt Corral.
They did, yeah.
I thought it was his legs.
And even on that note, Tennessee had 3 opportunities to score and take the lead in the second half.
Yeah.
So even with Matt Corral doing what he did with his legs, Kane, Tennessee had 3 opportunities to the later possessions obviously win the game, but even in some of those earlier possessions at the end of the third quarter, give yourself a lead.
Was it halftime when Hendon Hooker had negative 17 yards rushing?
Around that time.
He was sacked 4 times in the first half.
And ends up with a net of 108, gained 137, lost 29.
They let him run in the second half finally. Yeah,
right. My earlier point.
They probably ran him out of not playing the rest of the year. But, I mean, again, he's just trying to make a play. I mean, that is what it is. You're trying to win the football game there. That's just – it's football. I mean, you know, it's – I just – again, when you look at, you know, Cedric Tillman, you know, 7 catches on 9 targets. Bayless Jones, 6 catches on 8 targets. You know, Tennessee had a chance to win the football games. Hub said this in the 2-minute drill about, you know, Tennessee fans are tired of moral victories or whatever. I get that. Tennessee should have won this football game, in my opinion. I mean, they had multiple opportunities in the second half. They had a couple things go against them. You know, and they're doing it with, you know, nothing. Yeah. I mean, like, from a depth standpoint, I mean, there's some nice players on this team, okay? It's not like I'm not saying that they have no players, but, like, there's no depth.
Back to your offensive
at all. Man. There's no depth at several positions, but, I mean, like, you know, we'll see what happens with Hendon Hooker. If he can't play, I mean, they'll beat South Alabama and Vanderbilt, but those games become more challenging without him. I mean, like, he just added an extra dimension. And, I mean, you know, Joe Milton's been, you know, injury prone. So, I mean, like, you know.
There's a belly time.
No, I mean, again, I'm just saying, after the way that game ends, I'd play him next week.
Harrison?
If Hendon can't go, I'd play them both next week and see who gives you the best chance. Because, again, that run out of bounds there at the end of the game.
Yeah. All right. Last thing here is we kind of end this thing. I'll go with you, Ben, first. Tennessee now at Alabama next week. Then this stretch continues. Where they are in terms of injuries, still a couple guys that didn't show up and play in this football game. But kind of the outlook moving ahead to Alabama, knowing you're going to be a double-digit dog, you're going to be playing on the road, and having this letdown of an emotional loss with everything that was entailed in the fourth quarter. Kind of, if you're a team leader right now, kind of, you know, where's your mindset and how are you trying to lead this football team?
Yeah, this would be a tough one to swallow. Yep. That's for sure. You play pretty well defensively, and I'll say well enough to give your offense a chance to win the football game. On our Game Quest podcast, I said you could go ahead and put 40 up on the board. I was very surprised by how Ole Miss's defense played today, and again, I think part of that had to do with Ole Miss's or with Tennessee's offensive line situation. But it's going to be a tough one to swallow, and the leaders are going to have to step up. The Hendon Hookers, even if he can't play, he's going to have to step up. The guys on defense, we all know who the leaders on the team are. They're going to have to really rally guys, and it's a tough stretch. You got a bye week after Alabama, but Kentucky is still winnable. I would not pick Tennessee to win that football game, but they're definitely beatable, and hopefully you can get Hendon back, and you kind of build towards that. And I hate to take the whole, being happy with the close loss to Alabama. We saw an A&M team that was playing horrific football go in and whoop up on Alabama. So you never say never, but you just got to find a way to snap and clear, as Butch would say. And I hate to use a Butch cliche, but I mean that's what it is. It's a tough one to swallow, but you gotta put it in the review and just move on and try to keep getting better and try to get healthy. That's the biggest thing in my opinion.
Yeah, still a couple guys that didn't play. Cooper Mays didn't play in this football game. Tom Evans didn't play. Of course, you saw Cade Mays go out. Hopefully, we'll know more information on that as the week goes on. But Austin, as we close things out, real quick, all things considered, the Tennessee, and yes, the 20 minutes that halted the game at the end as well, did Tennessee help himself out in terms of recruiting tonight? I mean, the atmosphere was incredible there at the beginning and throughout the football game, more or less. A lot of recruits in house. Yeah,
I mean, there were. I felt like, that it should have showed well, but you never know how the stuff there at the end is going to be played out or portrayed. You don't know what a parent looks at and says, I don't want my, or do people have enough, common sense to realize that this is a small portion of people that were, and again.
And most of it came from the student section.
Sure it was, and here's the thing. Once a few got started, then it became funny to everyone. So it was like, let's throw this. Now, who the hell brought a golf ball? That's my thing. Like whoever brought a golf ball, I want to know, was it a Bellata? Was it a Srixon? Was it a Titleist? Was it a Pro V? What are we talking here on this golf ball? How did it get in the stadium? And who just thinks to bring a golf ball? Good thing I didn't have my clubs. I might have got a quick wedge shot in out there.
Flopped it.
All right, so as we move on towards 2 o'clock in the morning, we will leave Neyland Stadium for the final time here tonight. Ole Miss gets the win over Tennessee. Final score 31-26. Plenty of post-game coverage up at ballquest.com. Plenty of recruiting coverage coming your way tomorrow. For Austin Price and Ben McKee, I'm Eric Kane here from Neyland Stadium.